Welcome to the Zach Brown Show, the show that introduces you to old friends for the first time. I'm your host, Zach Brown. On this episode, I talk with Lisa DiNoto Glassner. We talk about moving from one passion project to the next, her latest venture with Thousand Circles, and how your experiences with the Disney park shift once you move to Orlando. Our conversation right after this. If you're like me, you probably wear clothes every day. You wake up and wonder, what am I going to wear today? The same old boring shirt as yesterday? No thanks. But don't worry, I've got you covered. You can order your very own Zach Brown Show t-shirt today. Visit tpublic.com and search The Zach Brown Show. In addition to t-shirts, you can get other fun logo gear like mugs, hats, magnets, and more. Get your Zach Brown Show gear only on tpublic.com.
Come with us to a tropical getaway like no other. At Babambaboo Bay, all your vacation dreams go beyond anything you dare imagine.
Is that a good thing?
See exotic wildlife.
Huh. That sounds awesome.
At Babambaboo Bay, you can charter a deep-sea fishing excursion.
This feels wrong.
Personal cabanas featuring luxurious amenities.
That is the biggest possum I have ever seen.
When the sun goes down, things really begin to heat up. Dine by moonlight at Enrile's Hibachi.
My eyebrows are gone!
And dance until the morning to the soulful sounds of Papa Luvi and the Clumpy Bunch. Let your stress melt away as you swim in the crystal clear waters of Babambaboo Bay.
Babambaboo Bay?
Babambaboo Bay.
Baba Ganoush. Babambaboo Bay? No. Yes? No.
Babambaboo Bay.
All right.
All right. Babambaboo Bay. A vacation like no other.
So I have so enjoyed this podcasting journey. I know people listen to podcasts. Some people aren't into the podcasting thing, but it really just gives me an excuse to sit and talk with my good friends who, you know, we're all busy in life, and this just gives us a chance to get together and just shoot the ish for a while and have just a good time. So I want to welcome back to the show for I feel like the first official full time, my dear friend, Lisa DiNoto Glassner. Lisa, welcome to the show.
I am just so happy that we finally made this happen. Our schedules have been clashing, I feel like, for so long on this end, and yours. So no, I'm just glad that we made it happen. We had some technical issues in the minutes leading up to this. So I'm glad we overcame those and we can forge ahead.
Definitely. And I want to give just a little bit of backstory. You know, I always say this show is all about old friends. Are you meeting old friends for the first time? And so to just pull our listening friends sitting here at the proverbial table and give just a little bit of back end to our story. I first became aware of Lisa in September of 2019. And I know it's exactly that because this was just a couple of days leading up to my moving from Northwest Florida to Orlando, and happened to be watching the Wednesday night live show that is our good buddy Lou Mangello's box night and, Wednesday Night Lives. And he was talking about people who'd been a part of this thing that he does called Momentum. And they were launching their new passion projects. And it's so cool that I can look back at that point in history and see the trajectory of life and how all those streams kind of flowed into one river. And it was really cool because I'm sitting there and I'm literally packing boxes and packing my life away into all these little, legal, paper boxes and getting ready to go. And he's talking about, this guy named Jason Knapp who's doing these videos where it's, it's all about quiet moments of joy. And little did I know that, a year later, I would be also helping him create those videos. He talked about, our buddy Colin and different people, but he mentioned this one and I thought, how cool is this? And he said, there's this, lady named Lisa DiNoto Glassner, and she is making candles. She has a blog, but she's launching, core memory candles. And I remember I literally stopped and I was like, that is so freaking awesome. I love this. And so I was like, this is so neat. And so then when I moved down a couple days later, you guys were all meeting up at Post Momentum and hanging out at Earl of Sandwich. And I came in, I'd only been in town literally 3 days. and I met you and Jason and Kenneth and all these different people, and it was like, okay, like they're all doing it too. And it was just so cool to finally like match the faces with the brands.
Yeah, I'm still caught up in you saying Lou called me a lady. But no, it's true. I mean, I think this cool kind of group has come together. And obviously it's natural that Lou's name, come up in this conversation because, you and I are both sort of forging our own path. And I think he was sort of the trendsetter maybe
Mhm.
years ago in all of that and in sort of kind of finding your way and like starting this organic journey of, kind of figuring out like some bigger purpose than maybe your usual 9 to 5. We can have a conversation about that too. I've got different feelings about that maybe than I did years ago. But whether or not that's such a bad thing necessarily. But no, I think we've all kind of like forging our own journeys, and it's been really interesting, I think, to see like how we've all kind of come to this similar place, maybe with similar goals starting out, and everything is sort of we've all kind of gone on our own direction, and it's all sort of like we all kind of have done our own version of this thing. And it's been kind of cool to see this group of people who's like maybe working together, moving forward together, finding momentum together, if you will,
Mhm.
but staying true to themselves the whole time. So we're all kind of like ending up in a different version of that same thing. So
Yeah.
it's good stuff. Good stuff.
And Lisa and I, we have, a lot of our paths kind of cross, whether that be, the meals and the events that we've shared together. You know, Lisa's matzo ball soup is without rival. Our ongoing Duolingo streak, and just similar passions. And what's really cool is like when you take those passions and you make that what you do. It's not just something you enjoy, like you put it into this thing that's, sustaining you, whether that be mentally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever. And, for a long time it was cool because you had your different like avenues. So there were some people that were like, oh, that's the running chick, or that's the candle lady and whatever. And for a long time, I think you really did become like the candle person. And like as we're sitting here just off camera, I have the very first purchase that I ever got from you, which I've saved very sparingly. And I have the Polynesia candle burning, and it's just filling my room and taking me back to like when I first moved here, because I thought how apropos to be in that mindset. But then I think, a lot of people will put blood, sweat, and tears and their everything into launching a passion project, and it becomes their identity. It becomes what they do. It's their baby, and I applaud those people because it takes so much to do that. But I think the even bolder thing and a scarier thing is to when you say, okay, that has had its time, to have the wisdom to know that season has come and gone. The hand is lifted from that moment. The grace for that thing is done. And it's amazing. I mean, we see that in a lot of different things with either artists or actors, or I mean, not that they're not artists, but you know what I mean? Like all these different things, when this thing that we love and go, okay, that's done. So before we talk about the next leg, I want to ask you about that. Like as a fellow creative, as a fellow, artist, like what was that process like for you to put your everything into creating this thing? And then just the emotional prep going into the decision of, I'm going to pull the plug on this.
Yeah, so such a big question, with an answer that can go in so many different directions. But I think like we can very briefly take a step even further back in my journey, to when I was in law and walked away from that, because I was to people who were hearing me for the first time or don't know my backstory. I was actually a big law attorney, on Wall Street and then outside DC for years and years and years, before I walked away from that to sort of start the journey that I'm on now, that has taken me different routes, to the candles that we're talking about, and then on to what I'm doing now, which we'll talk about. And so I think like it wasn't my first brush with sort of that facing like what your identity is exactly, and like
Yeah.
what aspects of what you do make up your identity, and not just like not just having dealt with it before and kind of knowing what that process was like a little bit, like separating from a career that has, become entangled with your identity, like, and what the challenges are. But also
Yeah.
I knew like how hard it was going to be. I didn't, I think I underestimated, I maybe even underestimated a little bit leaving law, and I knew it would be a big break with that version of my identity, but I think I almost underestimated it the first time and what the challenges would be. And so I think when the time started to come with Core Memory, with the candle company, I kind of knew. I knew it was time. I knew that feeling. I knew what it felt
Mhm.
like in my gut when something had run its course. But at the same time, I think I knew like what I was going to be up against as far as, feeling like that plant that's been sort of pulled out of the soil and then having at that moment of like just being in like midair, like, where am I going next? So I knew what the challenges were going to be. But that being said, I think I also knew that I had learned and taken what I could from Core Memory, and that it was time to sort of take that knowledge on to the next thing. Because while I had so loved creating the product in Core Memory and creating the images and writing about them and all of the inspiration and the brain science behind scent and like all of those things that I love that
Mhm.
made me create the product. I think anybody who's run particularly like a out of home tangible goods company knows that like the day-to-day reality of that isn't just that creativity. It's sourcing it's 100 things that aren't sort of what I got into that game for. It's
Right.
the tangible goods market. And so I think it just didn't feel right in my heart anymore. I was wrestling for a while with knowing that it was probably time. Like I knew there were things that I could have and should have been doing with the company to move it forward if I wanted to move it forward, that I was stalling on. And I
Hmm.
think if I was honest with myself, I knew I was stalling on those things because I knew it probably wasn't the right place for my energies anymore.
Hmm.
Um, and so, I was kind of winding down the help that I had with the candle company. The girl who helped me out with it was going to be leaving to go to college. So I was kind of at a transitional point where I was like, all right, I'm either going to start training someone else and sort of restarting this process and really moving forward with the list of things that I know I could be doing to grow this company to the next level, or I can take a step back, I can regroup. No good idea dies forever. I'm not saying there will never be another Core Memory thing in the world, but I just knew in that moment that it wasn't where my energies were best spent. And the reason I had been sticking with it was not so much because it was my passion project anymore, and I didn't feel like I was necessarily doing the right thing anymore. I was starting to do it because I felt guilty about taking it away
Hmm.
from the people who had fallen in love with it. And
Sure.
I think I got to a point where I was like, you know what, sometimes you have to kind of disappoint people in small ways in order to serve them in bigger ways.
Yeah.
And I know that if I was taking all of the energy that I'm putting into this and put it into like the thing that I feel like I should be doing in this moment, that I could be serving people that much better.
Yeah.
So there's my very sort of roundabout all over the place answer to your question. But like in short, like I knew it would be a big change. I knew it would be tough. But I also knew that it had probably, at least at that point in its life, run its course for me. And that it was probably time to take a step back and give my energy to where it felt like it was supposed to be.
Yeah. And it's always interesting when you talk to people such as yourself because you have lived a number of lives already. You have a long way to go, Lord willing. But I'm saying at this point, you have so many things that you've walked through that make you that much more interesting because you have these seasons that you've walked through, living in Japan and traveling and being, in big law, Wall Street alone, DC alone, like all these different things. And I think it's so easy on this side, like not in the moment or in sometimes in the moment, but not always in the moment. You understand why or the whys, But now looking back at the season that was core memory candles for you, what do you feel was like one of your biggest takeaways? Like, what did you walk away going like, this is now like my tool belt of wisdom, or like these things that like help guide you down future paths and endeavors?
I think just the service minded, like the service mindedness, like the difficult, like how hard it is to fail when what you're focusing on is filling a need and creating a service
Mm.
for your community and the people around you, I think is probably the bottom line of it for me. I mean, I started Core Memory as just sort of a little side fun project that was meant to be. I just like making things. I've always liked making things, like all through law school and, my overly academic background. I've always had an affinity for, things that I can make and touch. And like, I've always like recognized like I would in law school, I would sit and crochet and draw with pastels just because I think like I was so immersed in this like academic world of like books and words that like I valued that much more like the ability to create tangible items. Um, and I think so when I started Core Memory, with like an eye toward just like having a fun little passion project that I could sort of use as a way to connect with my community. Like it's
Yeah.
a thing that my hands touched that I could send out to you and that
Yeah.
like I could put into the world for you. It started as a passion project, and I think it was done with a lot of love, and I think people felt the love that it was done with. And if there's another lesson, that comes with, with that service mindedness, it's knowing that like people can tell if you love it or not. People can tell
Yeah.
if you value it or not. And like I started the candle company, for a lot of different reasons, but in part because, everybody's got their own business model, and not to knock anybody else, but, I had ordered candles myself that were Disney scent inspired. And, a week and a half later, like, a plastic envelope kind of got banged up against my door with a bubble wrapped tin inside of it. And it was like, oh, like, I
Mhm.
don't feel like this person understands why I bought this candle, because like it meant something to me. Like the sense of Disney, like if you're buying them for your home, you're buying them out of love, and you're buying them out
Yeah.
of love for like this thing that you want to bring into your home. And so I feel like, people could feel that love, from day one that was being put into the candles. And like it was coming from a place of like understanding what that smell like meant, and like what that contemporary lobby scent meant. And so I think like in giving that to people, I think from day one, people felt that. And I think that's a part of why it succeeded. And then the other reason why it's, why the company kind of blew up when it did was because COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like people were having to cancel their vacations, and like didn't have like sort of like lost contact with this like source of comfort and this like
Yeah.
source of joy in their lives. And so by creating the candles and being able to put them out there at that time in the universe, like I think it like filled a need for people. And that was my focus. It wasn't so much about like mixing the wax and mixing the oils and like the down and dirty like day to day of it, so much as like focusing on the fact that like people needed this right now.
Yeah.
And I think maybe when that sort of started to quiet down is when I sort of started to quiet down and think about what might be next.
Mm-hmm.
But still with the mindset of like, how can I take the thing that I feel like I should be doing now and turn that into like filling another void for people? Like, how can I
Yeah.
fill that need in the same way for people? So going into the next business venture, and going into like the next stage of what I was going to be working on with, the mindset of like, how can I fill a gap in need that like my community has?
Yeah. And
So,
to your credit, and you know me, I don't blow smoke just for the sake of blowing smoke, but your candles to me were almost like a fine scotch. Like you didn't want to just blow through them. You wanted to savor them and like not use them up. Like I still have a Jumbo house, and an ocean flight that I am keeping. Like, I haven't even broke the seal to even open up. And I know there's that lovely little letter inside that you've written up for each little description, and they're nestled in their little bed of the shredded paper, and it's beautiful. And they just live there because I want them, but I don't want it to go away because they were that special. But it wasn't just, oh, this is a candle that my friend made. The quality was A, that good, but B, it's like, oh crud, these aren't being made anymore. I have to like covet this and hold it so near and dear. And it's one of those things where somebody said something the other day, like, oh, I miss Lisa's candles. And I was like, I've got two, and you're not touching them. They're mine. But I think it's special when you come to that place when you go, okay, we have fulfilled the need. And like you said, you step back and go, okay, it's a two-hander. One, you go, what is the public's need? But then you have to ask yourself selfishly as the creator, what is my need? What do I want to do? I heard an interview one time with Brad Pitt where he said, I will make a blockbuster film so that I can take on a project that I really want to do as an artist. You know, he mentioned some film, and I don't remember what it was. And he said, I made this movie specifically for the fact that I wanted to make the man who assassinated Jesse James, or whatever that title is. He said, all I wanted to do as an actor, as an artist, he said, I wanted to make a Western. I wanted to dress up as a cowboy. I wanted to shoot guns and ride horses. And it's like, sometimes you have to do those things when you're like, I want to do this for me, because you're the artist. The artist is the first audience. You know, the artist is the first listener of the song. They're the first viewer of the painting. Like, if they're not enjoying the thing that they're creating, it's not worth putting out. So you went from one thing that you enjoyed, which was the sense and your olfactory senses and the things that we love about the Disney parks and spaces. And then you shifted. What's that? You want a commercial? Sounds like a plan.
Deep in the heart of Florida is a magical place where memories are made.
You mean like Epcot?
No, Sonny, I'm talking about Burmese John's Badger Farm.
Do they have rides?
Do they have rides? Nope. No, they don't.
Here at Burmese John's, we have the world's finest badgers.
Where'd you get the badgers?
The badgers are here. And that's all you need to know.
Okay.
This one's name is Demetrius. No, he likes you. Go on, scratch him's belly.
I'm good.
Now available for your birthday and corporate events.
Has anyone actually had a birthday party here?
Nope. Hence our availability.
Burmese John's Badger Farm. Won't do that again.
Enough of whatever that was. Back to the show. So we're moving into Thousand Circles, and I can tell you exactly where I was sitting when I saw the logo and heard the name, and I just went, God dang it, she's so great. Knowing what that meant, what that represented, what the imagery was. Tell me about the shift and how, like, even if you're like, I can tell you where I was, like, what was your moment when you went, this is what I'm going to do next?
So I think the idea was sort of sitting quietly in the back of my mind for a long, long time. I've been a lover of photography and a photographer, in amateur or professionally, my whole life. I've always loved having a camera in my hand. It's always been something that I enjoyed. And I think, and I think one of the treats about living, like you and I do, like within a stone's throw, almost literally of the castle, 1.2 miles as the crow flies from the back of Cinderella Castle. Is that like, yeah. And it's like, and I've always loved, even before we lived here, like even when I would come here on vacation, and I think like, a lot of us kind of come together because we like this place in the same kind of way. Like I am not, I never came here to ride Space Mountain specifically. I never came here because I wanted to do like, a meet and greet with Mickey Mouse. Those are all lovely things. And if you're here on vacation, like don't miss them. There's lots and lots of fun. But like, for me, it was like, those like quiet moments. And it's the same thing as the candles, right? It's like it's those quiet moments that like where you like stop for a second and you just take a breath and you're like, okay, I'm just going to be present and enjoy like this little thing. And my photography here, and like I was just saying, like one of the treats in living here, one of the like really great things about living here is that like that frantic nature of being here, the like franticness of the Disney vacation and feeling like you have to milk every second, every minute and, endure the sun and like, stress over your ADRs and like all those things that kind of just falls away. And like you really do, needless to say, living this close here, having an AP in your pocket and being able to walk in anytime, you really do have the luxury of like those quiet moments here. And so my photography here has always been interested in those moments, less so than some of the more typical stuff that you might take a picture of. Like, I take plenty of pictures of the castle, don't get me wrong, but, I always try to do some interesting twist on it. And I'm sometimes more interested in just like taking my macro lens to Epcot and taking pictures of the bees and the butterflies on the flowers. It's those little moments and like those little like tableaus that like sum up Disney for those of us who are more interested in this as like a place of calm and a place of nostalgia and a place of peace.
Yeah.
So I think like my photography here has always sort of veered that way. And as I would share it over time, even though like candles were taking up 99.9% of my time, like I would just get inquiries here and there about, wanting the piece or being interested in it. And so it's just sort of setting up, a sort of side site where I could have a home for those was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then sort of going full force with Thousand Circles was something that like I had the luxury of being able to give my time to once I shut the door on core memory. And then we can talk about like what I've been doing obviously with it lately, which has been, the daily drops, which has been a little bit more crazy.
So if for the keen eye, I think people can see that there is a very clear bridge going from core memory candles to Thousand Circles photography. Because with every core memory candle, I feel like I'm doing a commercial. For every core memory candle, you wrote a little, I don't want to say blurb, that sounds so cheap in comparison to what it was, but you wrote this love letter to a scent. Mm-hmm. You created a mind's eye to what you were going to smell. And you took them to a specific place, sometimes a specific bench. I mean, you cemented them in a place and it took them there, which is really cool. It was a transport mechanism. And what's really cool is that with Thousand Circles, you've now gone to the visual, but you still have your write-up, your beautiful writing on that place. Because you can take a picture, like you said, of a bumblebee in Epcot, or an orchid in the Polynesian lobby, or a lantern in the Japan pavilion, a side street or side little thing in, Liberty Square, whatever. But your description sets that exact mood, whether it's just after the parade or just before a rainstorm starts or whatever. You take the audience, the viewer, to that place. And I think that's so cool. Because you're kind of taking that same thing that you do so well with cementing. You took it from the one and you took it to the other. So you're still taking your audience on a journey, the public on a journey. It's just shifted from one sense to the next, going from the smell to the sight. And I just think it's so cool because it's your heart. You're sharing. It's like you're saying, when you have the blessing of the luxury of just being able to pop into Epcot for a couple hours or just walk around because you want to go see this one thing or you've had a rough day. And, if I'm having a bad day, I will let out the phrase, I got to go take a lap. And that means that I'm going to do World Showcase. I'm going to go walk around and I'm going to go home. But it's sometimes like, I just need to sit in this corner and have a snack or have a drink or have a sit and read a book, whatever it is. But it's like the people that are rushing by because they do have that time crunch, and we don't blame them. It's a real thing. You are taking that individual and almost going, wait, look at this. this is the special thing. Like, I don't want you to miss this.
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot there, you know, and
Sorry.
no, that was wonderful. I just want to make sure I don't miss any of any things I wanted to loop back on, but yeah, I mean, firstly, just in response to your comments on the similarities between the two businesses, between the idea of core memory and the idea of the pictures. I mean, I think what you're noticing is that I'm a writer and not really any of the other things. Like I'm absolutely a photographer, and I have loved photography for forever and ever and ever. But no, I'm a writer first, and that's every company that I'll ever start, and my blog and my Instagram, and like every presence that I have is centered in like writing as an expression and story, and yeah, exactly, and in storytelling, and that's the point of connection, right? I mean, there's not to cheapen any of this, but just to speak to the power of storytelling. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard about the eBay Found Objects Project.
No.
No. So,
no.
So with I don't know if they were in marketing or in psychology or in some combination of the two. I'm gonna botch the story a little bit, but there was a study that was done where somebody just basically bought a batch of valueless items or de minimis value items on eBay, just like a box of junk, and literally hired writers for each item to create a backstory for each of the items to sell on eBay. I have never heard like if they ever came out and were honest with the people who made the purchases after. I assume that they were, because this was a very public project, but they like 1,600 times their money.
Wow.
Based on stories. So, yeah, I mean, if, it's coming from the heart in everything that I do, but I think like taking the time to slip that card into the candle box that talked about, why you bought this, like why it means something to you. It's the same thing with a photograph, right? It's like the stuff that I'm making, the stuff that I'm doing with respect to Disney isn't about like, primary colors and the latest merch. It's like something way deeper than that. And like, that's my people, that's my community. Like whether I'm talking to you about a candle that smells just like, the water in Pirates of the Caribbean, or the lobby at the Contemporary, or the Beach Club, or, Gaston's cinnamon rolls, that like, I'm connecting with you on that for the same exact reason that like you'll see, a picture that I took of, a lit door in Morocco, or the UK pavilion at night, or, the Steve Jobs scene, or however you want to say he is in Spaceship Earth. Like it's the same exact emotion. It's the same exact point of connection, right? It's like, I see you and I get why you love this place. And like, we're on the same page. And like, whether it's the way a candle smells, or, or a photograph, like it's the same person that I'm talking to for the same exact reason.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because you could look at it on a very obtuse level and be like, okay, it's for those that like, they're Disney fans, but I don't want it to be in their face. Like, those that know, wink, wink, But I think a lot of it is symbolism. You're writing the story. I mean, I have, when you launched, I got a canvas of Spaceship Earth. And Spaceship Earth is one of my favorite structures. And every single time I walk under that, geodesic sphere, I say out loud, never gets old, because it's so beautiful. Different times of day, the different lighting package, whatever. And for me growing up, it was always this exciting place to go where you found inspiration, whether it was the Flower Garden Festival and we went home with a new idea for a garden, or it was some, new exhibit in Future World, whatever. So it was always this symbol of inspiration, this thing that I loved. It was this icon. And now to be able to live here and be like, that was part of the dream, was to like come here and create, and to be like, it's this, like that's like this standard, like the Israelites setting up monuments of, we did this here, it's like, that's this example, you know what I mean? So I see that. So I think for people who, they look at the quote unquote Steve Jobs picture, the innovator who made, an empire in a garage on, just blood, sweat, and tears. Like that's that inspirational thing that they can keep on their desk. It's this carrot that keeps like drawing them forward. I think it's so cool. So you're not just taking pictures and capturing memories or refreshing things. I think a lot of what you're doing, whether people realize it or not, is like you're selling hope. You're selling like it's more than dreams. It's like this thing where it's like, look at this and what this represents to you. And when you look at that throughout your day, and it just brings such inspiration or joy. So I think that's great that that's what you're putting out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's power in doing that in the understated way that Thousand Circles does, in that, like, it is proof that you can slide those moments seamlessly into the rest of your life. It is like they are beautiful in their own right. Like, you know, just because, you're at quote unquote Disney World doesn't mean that there's not, beautiful things like all around you, and incredible, obviously the opposite. There are incredible creations and acts of imagination all around you. Subliminally hitting you from all directions when you're in the parks. And like the
Yeah.
fact that you can capture the quiet beauty of any of those moments and seamlessly integrate it into your home, I think speaks volumes. And I think even for the people who are here on those hectic family trips where, you've got crying kids and everybody's exhausted and you're running from place to place and you're trying to squeeze in every last moment. I think when you go home, I think what you remember is still those little quiet moments. Those are
Yeah.
still like, you're not, several years from now, you're not thinking about like, when your 2-year-old had a breakdown on Main Street. You're thinking about when your 2-year-old, was on the carousel for the first time and their eyes were full of wonder and like you saw it through their eyes, like that's what you're remembering. And so, whether it's, because you're, motivated by the spirit of Imagineering and, Walt's imagination, or it's just, how your mind sort of packages up what, might have been, in reality, a pretty stressful trip, like your memories of it.
Yeah.
Are not that way. So, whether you're coming at it as, a longtime fan who understands what you were just describing, or, a visitor who's just looking back on a family vacation, like I'm hoping that quietness can speak to you on both ends.
Yeah. You are doing something that I think is absolutely bananas. And that's you launched this site, which is what people do. They put out product and they go, here it is. If you want it, here's my collection. But then you did something so deliciously evil. And I think it's absolutely genius. And you are doing these just for today pictures. And I want you to talk about that because it's so good. It's so brilliant. And I've been caught up in it. I bought my sister this beautiful print that you did of the France Pavilion in Epcot, and it put a little gold frame, and it now sits on her desk in her home office, and it's so cute. But tell me about your just for today's.
So much to say about my just for today's. So on thousandcircles.com, which is the site that we've been talking about. Like I said, when Thousand Circles very first came to be, it was basically just like a place to put things people were asking for, like specifically, like I wanted to have a home for, the photography that people were specifically asking me for. And, you have something and like, you'll give it your attention and you get pulled away and it's, and it was kind of there, but it wasn't getting enough of my attention. I, like a lot of people in generally, a lot of creatives, I think specifically in generally, a lot of artist types, with whether they have imposter syndrome or some milder version of that. I think you tend to get yourself caught in these loops of perfecting and reworking and
Sure.
and not sort of releasing your work into the wild. and kind of taking it too seriously, overthinking it, like waking up the next day and thinking about how you're going to do it differently and like how you're going to revise the paragraph again or re-edit the picture or whatever your format is. And so for me, while on the buyer's end, you're seeing like a picture a day and then it goes away. And obviously like from a sales perspective, that's a lot of fun for everybody. I think like it's fun for everybody to see like what the day's image is. And, and they do, yes, they do go away after 24 hours, which puts a degree of time pressure on it. But I also feel like you kind of know when you know, like, I know, like my best customers, I know when they're going to buy a print because I know when it's going to speak to them. And you know if it's going to speak to you. You don't need more than 24 hours to know. If it's meant to be in your home, then it's meant to be in your home. So from a consumer end, from a customer end, like I think it's been really, really fun for everybody to get these daily drops. But on my end, it was really a forced workflow for me, and it forces me to, if you've ever read the book, Show Your Work. It's a forced workflow for me, and it forces me to put something out into the world every day. So I tend to like to do challenges. Like I find myself a lot of times finding little challenges for myself in the month of February, which I think is probably because I'm a runner and like my big races are in January. So I'm training for marathons and craziness and like challenging myself in that way up until like the very beginning of January. And then after that, I'm like, all right, now I need a new challenge. So I tend to find like something around the month of February to challenge myself. And so my challenge for myself this February, I was going to do it as a test and maybe keep up with it, who knew, was to do a new drop, a new photograph on 1,000 Circles every single morning at 9 a.m. So that meant taking a single photograph, from raw format to fully edited, from raw format to fully edited, getting a listing up. And then I craft it, like we talked about, I craft, a write-up about it. I send an email out to my email list. They get the blast every morning. So while it's been, I think, fun for everybody, like on the consumer side to like see stuff and decide what they're going to buy and do things like that. On my end, it's just this sort of forced workflow where every single day I'm forced to, as an artist, like put something out into the world. And I'll be perfectly honest, there are days where like my eyes are closing and I'm exhausted and like I didn't get it done earlier in the day because something was happening with the kids and it's like 12:30 at night and like I knew I have to be up at 5:45 with my oldest son and I'm like finishing and I'm like, I don't love this yet. And it's like, you know what? That's okay. It's got to go out. And it forces you to get out of your own head. And sometimes those are the best sellers. Sometimes they just happen to connect with people. It's like, and you were just questioning yourself in the last moment. And it's like, there are so many times when I know that I would have given up at the end of the night because I wasn't where I wanted to be with something, or I wasn't ready to release it into the world yet, or I was still questioning myself, or I was questioning the subject or whatever. But in forcing myself to like put something out into the world every day, I just have to get over myself every single day. But then the other thing that's cool about it is it's not that serious because then it's gone again. It's gone again at the end of the day. So it's like, I put it out into the world, and if it connects with people, that's wonderful. If it resonates with people, that's wonderful. If somebody wants to take it home, that's amazing. And if not, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. Telling you from my perspective, it's like I'm looking at it two different ways. One, I'm like, oh wow, that one's so good, or that one's really cool. And there's the other side of me that goes, oh my God, does she have like this? Does she have so much backstock? Is she running out? Does she have to run out today and go get these like 5 more? Like, I'm like, from the workflow, the creative standpoint, the like content generator, it's like stressing me out for you. But I'm like, you know what? She's got this figured out. She's got the thing going. And so it's just funny to watch where I'm like, there's like, it's not like I'm expecting like the creativity flow to run out because I know that it's there. But just from this end, I'm like, oh my gosh, every single day, there's no break.
It's a lot. Like it's a lot. Like it's
Hold on. I just love that
I
you just went, it's a lot, period.
it, no, I mean there are days there are days where I get like a little bit ahead of the game and I'm like, all right, I'm set. Like I'm pretty well positioned for the week. I know what my plan is. And then there's days where like, do you ever read the book like How to Eat Fried Worms when you were
Yeah.
little? Like, so I remember like sometimes I feel like that scene at the final, like the last one where it's like these clacking down of the minutes and he's like having to eat the like night crawl at the last minute. And it's like you're like, I've got to get like you just like sometimes it's just like, all right, it's game time. Like
Yeah.
there's no and that's like kind of what I'm talking about there. Like that's kind of what is so cool about this whole process is that it's like stripping away all of the like the ability to like question yourself out of sharing your work each day.
Yeah.
It's like it's getting put out there each day. All that being said, like first of all, like there's just like when I mean, I know you see it. I know like I think a lot of us, see it. I mean, nobody, plenty of us walk around Disney with, the phone, the cameras that we have in our pockets and take pictures all day. I mean, there's beautiful scenery at Disney, but when you really start like walking around with an eye toward it, like
Yeah.
it's just a treasure trove. I mean, from like rounding the bend. One day I was like, it was early in the morning. I was like rounding the bend in World Showcase near the Mexico Pavilion. And I just like looked up and like there was this adobe wall and the sunlight was just shining this gorgeous diagonal across it. And there were these two like turquoise figurines that were like in these little teeny nooks in the corner. And it was just this perfect little tableau. It was just the perfect time of day. The sunlight was streaking across it. And it was like nobody else really would have noticed it. But it's like as you're walking around with an eye toward these things, part of the fun is that you start just seeing things everywhere. Not to mention the fact that like, there's some seasonal stuff coming up that's going to be a lot of fun because, if you think I'm running out of material, wait till the holiday decorations go up. It's a whole new bag of worms.
I think it's cool because I think some of my most favorite ones that you've done are the ones that are seemingly obscure. Like they're a macro zoom on something or a really, like you're saying, it's not, oh, she took a picture of, the pyramid, she took a picture of whatever, that it's like, no, this is this little corner or this is this wall. This is a specific little area that unless you're looking for it, but most people are just rushing off to La Cava or their, frozen lightning lane, whatever, to just be like, oh, there's this really pretty thing that was put there with intentionality. And you caught it at just the right cocktail of experience. That was the light in the moment. And it grabbed you again, like you were the first viewer of that moment. And you were like, I want to capture this because other people need to see this thing.
Yeah. And I think you start to appreciate like, as you're sort of creating your own form of art out of these images, I think you gain a whole new level of appreciation for the intentionality of the Imagineers. Because, it's until you really are looking for those little moments, like some Imagineer knew the sunlight was going to hit that wall just right.
Yeah.
And that Imagineer also knew that, on the color wheel, that Adobe reddish orange color and that turquoise are perfect matches, or perfect complements. So, for like, and there's just tableaus everywhere. Whether it's, and so much like of a natural landscape. I mean, I've walked around French Quarter at sunrise just taking pictures of Spanish moss. For 45 minutes. I mean, there's so much beauty in this place that is easy to overlook until you stop to see it. But then, like I said, like a part of me hopes that, people who come home from hectic vacations, look at these pictures and like, that's kind of what they remember too.
Yeah. So as long as we're like, proverbially right here in World Showcase, for those that are not picking up on the backstory and the meaning, would you tell us about what Thousand Circles means and what it means to you?
Yeah. So Thousand Circles is from the Illuminations music. We'll begin another 1,000 circles around the sun. And I think like, we all have our heart show at Disney or our heart thing at Disney. I mean, for me, it was imagination. It was Illuminations. Like it's just from the music to the soaring fireworks to the way they like lit up World Showcase in just the right way. Like it just hit me in all the feels to the point where, before I moved to Disney, like when Disney was just very much sort of a refuge for me, like the place that you like kind of long for comfort when you're going through stuff. Like before I moved here, like when I was having like those times where I would miss this place so much, like in between visits, like there were times when I almost couldn't play the music because it hit me in the feels like too much.
Yeah.
But anyway, needless to say, like Illuminations, the show after a, very, very wonderful long run was retired. It's still very close to our hearts. And for me, just that line of the circles around the sun just speaks to like the passage of time and the choices that we make and like how we affect the things around us. And, and for me, like when I was, like we were talking about in the beginning of the conversation, like when I was closing core memory and like moving to the next thing and like thinking about how I was framing it in my mind, like that was like the imagery that sort of the passage of time and the choices that we make and how this was sort of my next go around, my next venture.
Yeah. And one of your last few candles that you released was the Illuminations candle, which I have over there somewhere. Again, sparingly, but it's one of those things that every so often I'll just kind of open the jar and take a whiff because I'm like, oh, this is so good. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Come on in to Carl's Arcade, where we have all the hottest video games, including Legend Seekers, Ninja Academy, and Jackalope Hunter.
Wow!
You're darn right, wow. At Carl's Arcade, you can win fun prizes, eat the cheesiest pizza, and try the all-new Tube of Mystery.
All right, so just put your hand in there and try to guess what it is.
Is it pudding?
Nope.
Is it peanut butter?
Wrong again.
Well, what is it, mister?
You don't want to know.
Located conveniently near the Windjammer Mall, behind Penny's Popsicles. Carl's Arcade. Live your adventure today.
Oh, boy!
Sorry for the delay. I locked myself out. We can continue now. So I want to shift. And I want to talk about something that I know is something you get. Like we've been talking about like creativity and whatever. But I want to talk about like what happens when you live here. Like we know those people and there's nothing against them. But there are those folks out there that are like the hardcore Disney folks that their whole mission in life is to quote unquote move to Disney World. And they just have this assumption that they are going to run and gun the park from dawn till dusk every single day. And I'm going to go on record and say that's a very, very unhealthy perspective to life. But I want to ask you something because I know it has for me, and it's obviously like changed. But I want to ask you about your personal, what I call shift in fandom with like the Disney park specifically since moving here, since living here. And I know you've already kind of talked about that a little bit, but like what is that for you?
So I think that I think that like before I moved down here, my sort of I didn't have an unrealistic take on like living here, I think necessarily. I mean, I think that like, if you have issues in your life, they will follow you here. They will not go away. Real life is still real life. If you have, issues with, relationships or if there's stuff in your life that, that isn't right, that needs fixing, it will still need fixing, even with the castle around the corner. And I think, that's something that is good to keep in mind. And I think and I think hopefully, most of us are realistic about that coming down. But there is that like feeling of like your first bad day when you live like a mile from the castle and like the reality of like, I'm having a bad day. I live in Disney World and I'm having a bad day. So it's like, I mean, there is that like reality of like, all the same, that you still have to go to the dentist and go grocery shopping and go to school and study and stress and like all those things still exist, even if you are around the corner from the castle. That being said, like, I think, being realistic about, that moving down, I used to talk about even before we moved down here, like I had my hashtag was like lunch at Epcot.
Okay.
And like, and it was like when people would say like, why do you want to live down here? My answer would be like, I want to just be able to have lunch at Epcot. Like, I want to like wake up in the morning and like go grocery shopping and like do some laundry and like pop over to Epcot for lunch and then leave and go on with the rest of my day. I just wanted like this place to just become a normal part of the day and not like this sort of peak experience that had to be like milked for everything it was worth, like in like this high stress way, like on vacation. And I think like settling into that has been really lovely. And you see like different versions of, some people do come here and still like do the parks hardcore, like constantly and like eat, the latest snacks and like, and I think we still have fun with that stuff. Like we still do all those fun things. Like I still like to take my kids on, I joke about not coming here for Space Mountain. I enjoy it. We have fun. Like, I mean, we still ride all the rides and ride safari every chance we get. But I think it's just like the ability to like literally have it be the local park. Like Magic Kingdom really is the local park. Like it really is where you meet up with friends. Like it really is like someplace that you can like hop into for a little bit if you just want to have a cupcake or ride Pirates of the Caribbean. Like I literally pop into Animal Kingdom and do nothing but sit with a friend and have a drink at Nomad Lounge and then ride safari and then go home. Like
that sounds lovely.
I mean, and it's how I've chosen or how we've chosen to integrate it into our lives. But I think like just the reality of there is a trade-off, right? Because it's like you don't get that, oh my gosh, moment of here. Like coming under the gate. There's not a like, oh my God, the castle, I'm gonna go. Like, but like that's also not real either, So I think like I'm happy with that trade-off. You know what I mean? I'm happy with like it just sort of being the backdrop of our lives. Like I hear the fireworks quietly boom in my backyard every night. Like I literally hear the water pageant in my bedroom. Like we're that close. So having it just be this sort of like quiet backdrop, this place full of magic where, things are done maybe a little bit better than they are in other places. We're very lucky to have.
It annoys my brother when he's in town and we are looking for like, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? And I'll, like speaking to my phone, like restaurants near me and like, Pecos Bills coming up and the Crystal Palace. And he's like, I hate you. And I'm like, well, we're not eating there. Don't worry. He goes, it just annoys me that's like, what's like some of the first things that pop up. But I was like, I know. And I totally agree with you. It is hashtag lunch at Epcot. Those little things. I mean, I've had those days where I'm like, okay, I've got a break in between meetings and I have some work that I need to do. And I just got to get out of the office or I got to get out of the house. Like what I need to go somewhere. And I'm like, I'm going to go work from, and I'll, try to pick some place that's convenient or whatever. Or maybe if it's somewhat, speaking to what I'm working on or whatever that can give me some sort of inspiration. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go work from like Riverside today, or I'm going to go work from, the Canada Pavilion. Why? I don't know. And I know that sounds so like entitled and first world, whatever, but it's one of the things where it's like, and there's a bunch of my listeners that couldn't care less, and I think that's cool that it's these things where we're like, this is the fun of living here and having, like you said, as the backdrop to what we get to do. I think it's the the pacing of it, like there's not that rush, just kind of walking through and just taking it in for what it is. It's really fun and
Yeah.
special.
Yeah. I mean, my kids' literal favorite thing to do at Disney, period, is go to Mitsukoshi and pick out like a ramen and a sweet and a drink, maybe an incense, and take it home and make it at the house. Like, and maybe nosh, like, get some spicy chips or some snacks or something to
Yeah.
nosh there, and like bring like a ramen home and, make it at the house for dinner or for a snack. Like that's their favorite thing to do. And I think like literally that's like some days they're just like, let's just do that. So we'll just drive over to Epcot. We'll walk to the Japan Pavilion. We'll go into Mitsukoshi. They'll get their stuff and we'll leave. And I think like the luxury of being able to like say yes to that is what's great about living here. Like there's no part of me that has to be like, but like, we're only here for this amount of time. And like, so this is a waste of blank, or like, there's 6 other things that we should do. But wait a minute, the Guardians queue isn't that long. Like if they just want to if they literally just want to go, park and walk in and pop into Mitsukoshi and get themselves a ramen, like that's something that like we can do. And it's not a big deal. Or maybe they just want to like go to Pineapple Lanai at the Poly, or maybe they just want to like, fill in the blank for the next silly thing. But like, those, because those little moments are like the point, and that's the same thing with the pictures. Like, it's like those little moments and those little quiet moments, like that is kind of the point. That is sort of what you take with you when you leave. So like the ability to like allow my children to enjoy this place in exactly the way that they want.
Right. Like if you said like, what do you want for dinner tonight? And they said burgers, and that, Geyser Point is on that list of options of places to go to burgers. It's not like going to Ford's or Miller's. You like, we want to go to Geyser Point. Yes, we do. Just for the peaceful, like relaxing by the bay and having a great meal.
Yeah, like they love Shikisai, which is the izakaya, the new izakaya at in the Japan Pavilion. Like that's one of their go-tos. They also love like the quick service at the Poly, so it's, or they have like, their little passing favorites. Like Three Bridges is a favorite of ours. And that's a go-to. So yeah, and me too. Like, you go into Google Maps and you search, and like Columbia Harbor House comes up as the closest restaurant, so it's a little bit silly. It's a little bit silly.
Sometimes I sit back and I just go, I just love my life. This is, like the made up rules in the midst of all the other rules that we have to deal with in reality. We get some pretty cool, playgrounds.
Yeah. I always say like, when we first started, and I've told this, countless times before, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself to anyone, but, when you first start to talk about moving here or thinking about moving here, like the first question I would always get from people were like, well, but don't you think you'll get bored? Like, don't you think you'll get tired of it? And always like, I don't know. Are you tired of the mall? Like, that's where you go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like your locality does not need to provide constant sources of dopamine and adrenaline. And, it's, it's just where you live. And this just happens to be like where we live. And that comes with a lot of really cool stuff, like including these awesome experiences in the backyard and like a super, super cool community that comes along with it. So yeah, I think we just get to live in a cool place,
And I think, being a creative such as yourself, everybody's creative. Everybody has their creative thing. And, you are not only a creative, but you also are a speaker and a writer. And I got to hear you speak for the first time, which is really cool, last year. And you shared all on imposter syndrome. And I know this is like another 45 minutes that you could go off on, but like if you were to encourage someone listening who is like, I want to do something, I want to create something, but I can't because blank, or I don't feel that I can because of blank. What would you say to that person to help them just start? Like the thing where you're like, you know what, like I can do this, or whether they feel it's a need or not, something that's like, I want to do this thing. I have this, little flame inside of me. what would you speak to that person wrestling with any degree of imposter syndrome?
I mean, I think I would say two things. I would say, first of all, it's not that serious. Nobody's going to lose sleep tonight if the little short story that you write isn't good, or if it is good, it's that you did it.
Yeah.
It's funny. They always say like a lot of like, they always say various artists enjoy the art itself, and writers like having written. That it's in the past tense.
That's funny.
But no, but I'm sorry, digression. But no, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I think my first point is like, if there's a thing you want to do, then just do it. Like, if you love taking pictures, then like take your camera out for 15 minutes tomorrow. And that's so like my first part is like, nobody is as worried about you as you. Everybody's got their own stress. Everybody's got their own questions about themselves. Everybody's got their own version of their own imposter syndrome. And again, like I could talk for a long, long time about that subject, but just in answer to your specific question, I would say, first of all, just don't take yourself so seriously. Just go do it if you feel like you want to do it. And the other thing that I would say, truly, 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 is give it 15 minutes a day. Like literally, if it's that you want to write, set a timer on your phone and don't do a darn thing besides stream a conscious write for 15 minutes. If it's that you want to take pictures, like whether it's with a camera, like a big camera or your phone or whatever you've got, like take 15 minutes and take some pictures, and maybe take 15 minutes tomorrow and watch some inspirational YouTube content about somebody who's doing the kinds of things that you want to do. Or, if it's that you want to knit for, like, just give teeny little blocks of time to it. And like, they will amalgamate, first of all, into like an actual real skill set, but it'll also just start to feel like a thing you can do. Like it becomes tangible.
Yeah.
So you don't like, if you're working, a 9 to 5 and then some, and you're being, you've got, other things going on in your life, and you're exhausted, and you're like, I don't have another second in the day. Like, if it's 5 minutes, like, just give yourself some tiny block of time every single day to dedicate to like whatever that thing is. And like, you will see that grow with time. It will become more tangible. It will become a skill set. Like, that time investment will build over time. And then, maybe it doesn't seem so crazy to charge for a photography gig all of a sudden. Maybe it doesn't seem so weird all of a sudden to sell an Afghan that you made. Just do it, put it out there and then do it again.
I love that. You are an incredible person. And I don't just say that because you're sitting in front of me. I would say that to anyone. But, of all the things that you've done, being a super mom and doing all the just different businesses and whatever, looking back at your life, this is a question that I ask to almost all of my guests, but one that I always just find the answers diverse and interesting. If today was the last day, it was the last ever photo click in your life, and you closed your eyes and tomorrow didn't happen, I know that sounds super bleak and dark, but what would you want your legacy to be?
I mean, my first and honest 1,010% question is just my children. I hope that I have, I do hope to get quite a bit longer with them and helping to guide them and help them build the lives that they want to lead. But I think they're both going to do really great things in the world. And I hope that I'm doing all of the things to support that, along the way. And, and as far as like a personal legacy besides that, I just hope that like my doing all of the things that I've been doing since I walked away from law out loud and openly has given people and continues to give people permission to walk away from paths that they know aren't right.
That's really good.
So, yeah, I mean, I walked away from a lot of things. You invest a lot in something like a Harvard law degree, and then you go off to these big firms and you do all these things. And I think like, just because it looks great on paper, if it's not fulfilling you, like you have permission to move on. You have permission to like do the next thing. There's nothing holding you in a place that doesn't make you happy. You've got one life, you know. And if you don't feel like you're spending it in the right way, like stop wasting your time, you know?
It's heavy. That's good. Permission to stop doing the things and to walk away. That's powerful.
Well, it is. And it's been what's at the heart of everything that I've been doing. Like all of these sort of versions of careers and work and all of the different things that I've been doing over the years, particularly since I walked away from law, has all been like with the goal of that at its heart. Like I've done it all, but I've done it all out loud, very deliberately, because I hope that, I remember the version of me that didn't think I had another choice. I remember the version of me that thought I had invested too much in this other life to walk away from it, and that was surrounded by people who were doing the same thing as me. And so you don't question, or you think you're crazy for questioning it. When I gave notice to my partnership at my firm, I argued with them for hours. They said I'd be miserable. And so I think like I would hope that like the next person who has to go through that process at least knows they aren't the first to do it, and they aren't crazy for doing it,
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Lisa, I've had a great time. Thank you for just sharing your passion and all that you do with, our friends here. I always enjoy talking with you.
It's always fun talking with you on and off recording. But thank you so much for having me. This has been delightful. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for joining us for our conversation. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you did, please tell a friend. And if you would, just take a moment to leave a 5-star review on your favorite streaming platform. You can also share this episode or any others on your social media accounts. Once again, I want to thank my guest, Lisa DiNoto Glassner, for talking with me. You can follow Lisa on Instagram at The Castle Runner, read her blog on thecastlerun.com, and of course, buy her amazing photographs at thousandcircles.com. The Zach Brown Show is produced by me, Zach Brown, and Corey Jess, and is part of the Zach Brown Network. Our album art is made by Luis Lopez. Our outro music is Nurse by Corey Jess. You can follow him on Instagram at corey.jess.productions. You can follow The Zach Brown Show on Facebook or Instagram at The Zach Brown Show. Also, you can help support the show by signing up to be a Patreon member. Memberships start as low as $5 a month. There's lots of great membership perks, like buttons, stickers, an exclusive t-shirt, and sneak peeks at upcoming projects. Sign up right now at patreon.com/The Zach Brown Show. That's all for this episode. I hope you come back for the next one. Until then, take care.